Welcome to the Rolling Forward podcast,
a platform where we talk about all things logistics.
Leading this discussion, you've got Brett and Nathan.
And together, we share a passion for the logistics industry.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. Here we are. Here we are for a topic we're going to talk about, which is time slotting across a few different markets of transport logistics. And I just want to kick off by saying, my observation has been efficiencies for my entire working employment here at SEQH. I've been here 10 years.
Yes.
And I see the way we efficiently engage with terminals.
Mm-hmm.
I see the way that the terminals have automated and embraced that as well and evolved and whatnot. And that's all I know. That's all I know. I don't know the history previously. I know of it, but I didn't live it. And that's what I want to, explore today and talk about. And we'll go through those three different motions, starting first with the terminals.
Yep.
And I want you, Brett, just to talk about, let's come back to the 90s, the early 90s.
Yep.
What was it like? What was port logistics like? And how is the road transport interfacing?
Yeah, it was relatively inefficient in those days, Nath, compared to today. So you'd go down with your piece of paper, your DO to collect your import container, and you just line up effectively. Yep. There was no slotting system, so
which I find hard to comprehend. Just for what I see today,
it was just the way it was, and that was people hadn't thought about improving things. I know forward thinkers did.
Yeah.
But you went down, you lined up, so that was really good for getting queues early in the day because people wanted their boxes at 8 and 9 o'clock, and so you went down there, and it was very inefficient. So you need a lot of trucks to achieve that.
Yeah, just sounds like an absolute parking lot.
It was. So the next iteration was the stevedores said we need some more control around this, and that was supported by the road transport industry as well.
Yep.
When you get a slotting system in, and some people didn't like it, but it was the best thing because it gave us visibility and also allowed us to plan.
Yep.
So if you like slotting on the stevedoring side, but what that still meant, if you wanted your box at 8 o'clock, there was a lot of demand for 6 o'clock slots.
Yep.
So we still had the situation where we weren't divorced. The slot drove the delivery.
Yep.
So the customer had to be happy with the slot and then hence the delivery. Otherwise, it sat on trailer and then got taken out, or sat on a side load and got taken out.
Yep.
And then there was a small number of companies back in those days doing like hubbing operations, the larger ones, probably 3 or 4.
But otherwise, it was a foreign topic. Everyone just went straight from terminal to customer.
That's right.
And
most efficient in their view. Yep, that's what we did.
And I remember, I look at the relationships we have with the terminals today, and they're great working relationships with the stevedores.
That's right.
But I also know of a lot of long-serving employees that say that wasn't always the case.
That's exactly right.
There was quite a divide between the stevedores and road transport.
It was often quite a corrosive arrangement. And it's probably fair to say Sydney, there's been a really corrosive arrangement. I suppose the stevedores took the view early days that road was an annoyance.
Yep.
And it was the wrong approach as they got, and some of the current stevedoring management made that evolution and said, no, without, we can come across the vessel onto the ground, but we've got to get rid of it. We don't, we just clog up.
Yep.
So we've got to get efficient ways landside to get rid of these boxes, and that's the process.
Yep.
So they became a lot more interested in the efficiency of landside, and to the benefit of industry and the landside industry and also themselves.
Yep.
And that slotting was a key part of that.
And if I'm correct in saying, I might be wrong here, but if I'm correct in saying, it seems to me that during my primary school years, Patrick Terminal, they were one of the ones that were the early adopter and the innovator in the space of time slotting.
Yes.
And then they took it to the next level with actual automation.
Yes.
Right here at the Port of Brisbane.
That's right, because you had great to have time slotting, but if you've got an unloading and loading mechanism driven by labour, and the labour is not particularly friend of the organisation, you can get you get quotas and all this kind of stuff going on, which just slowed things up. So it wasn't particularly efficient.
Yeah.
On the stevedoring side with the slotting, which then constrained slots because they didn't want to load them, and so it went on. So that's why the Patrick's thing developed in, I think it was 98 or whatever it was, back in the day, and they went to automation. So that improved the efficiency on that side, and then DP World adopted that as well a little bit later down the track. So that combination of certainty with slots and an efficient interface to guarantee you got those slots done, really improved the efficiency of the wharf landside interface.
Yep. And as you said beforehand, there were a small handful of businesses back then, largely port-based,
yes,
that were doing a small amount of hubbing.
Yes.
And it seems to me like, the stevedores starting this time slotting really paved the way in a lot of regards. Then, I want you to talk through, Brett, the early 2000s, what that meant for our business, SEQH.
Yeah.
And how you also looked at that, and we've got to adjust things. We've got to change things too.
Yeah, we did hubbing in effect on a small scale because we couldn't get slots to line up with the customer requirements. So as a result, we'd bring them back to the yard, either use side loaders or some sort of small forklift to move boxes around, to reposition to keep accessing the wharf and our slots. At in the mid 2000s, so 2004, 5, 6, 2006, I think we took the view that we had to get a container handler.
Yep. We
had to be able to do this really quickly and efficiently to up our efficiency. So we leased some land in Hemet and got a reach stacker in, and away we went.
Yep.
So I think that was about 2005 or 6.
Yep.
We did that. And that allowed us much more flexibility to guarantee the customer the delivery time they wanted. So what we did was then said, righto, so the slotting system at the wharf, we'll bring in our own slotting system for our customers, so they've got certainty about when boxes are coming. Yep. So, and we're one of the first people to start doing that. So it was really just an evolution of that, trying to put efficiency and order around what is effectively if you don't get control of it, you need an efficient system. So put some order on it, and then people have got certainty they can plan their labour around that as well at the customer side.
Yep. And just sounds to me like reducing a lot of chaos too, because there was a lot
of chaos, Nate, back in the day.
I bet. And I look at how we do things today, which would have been the same, when we started adopting this.
Yes.
Is we have the interface with the terminal, we book the slot, which then timestamps, and we know when we're going to get access to that container.
We got the box.
Within such a period of time.
Yep.
We can then plan with the customer because we know exactly when it's going to come back to our yard, maybe within half an hour, 2 hours, and it's predictable. And we can then have those conversations up front with our customers.
That's right.
And say, here's the go.
Yep.
How does it work in with your site, your location, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's right.
And if we just look at a couple of stats here, we don't have this from the early 2000s, but, from 2013, the Origin Destination Study came out saying that about 44% of imports were hubbed.
Yep.
Came back by transport yards.
Yes.
About 50% were exports.
Yep.
And we look back to, recent years, 2023, the study came out and that's jumped to a massive 82% and 87%.
It's near enough double. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
which is really good to see as trade has increased.
Yes.
That reliance on those transport hubbing operations
has increased
too.
My word. So that allows, they're like inbuilt shock absorbers in a lot of respects. Yep. So they divorce the constraints of our slotting system and the wharf slotting system to give customers really what they want and give them certainty so they can plan their labour and be efficient on their side.
Yep. No, it's really good.
Yes. No, it put a lot of order on what could have been and was quite an unruly arrangement.
Yeah. And then when I look through the timeline again, so getting closer to 2010, you had a parcel of land here in Hemet, the first of what we have now 3.
Yep.
And you were then partnering with Hallmark Trailers, Mac Volvo,
yep,
and created what is now the A-double all around Australia and every major port.
Yep.
I want you to talk through what did that actually mean for the business and what did that start to mean for some of the customers that you were collaborating with at that stage too?
Well, it certainly improved our. It was two each sword. One was the access in the stevedores, 240s at a time because the trade was increasingly moved towards 40-footers.
Yep.
That was one part. Second part was accessing our Western customers, particularly our export Western customers, with a combination that could cart 27, 28 ton boxes, 2 up. Previously, a 28 ton box was a 1 up, so a lot of them were cutting reduced weight boxes to use B doubles and various other things, singles. So that allowed them to be more efficient, but the doubles effectively meant that customers had to get container handling gear and stuff and gear up, get more efficient as well.
Yeah.
Which these days, I mean, it's quite it's quite impressive to see the process and watch on the Warrego what's going on.
Yep.
Coming down from Toowoomba. But a key part was accessing that wharf at, with 2 40-footers.
Yep.
That was a key component.
And it's interesting sometimes when we talk to people that are internationally based and we say, we've got a multi-combinational vehicle, then reversing into the terminals. So how did that go about when...
Oh, yes, that was interesting. It took a little while because I was hopeful that my stevedoring friends, and Matt in particular, was going to give us a drive-through solution, but that wasn't going to happen. So I organised with Hallmark. We put some pins in to start with, and so we just back them in with pins like a B double.
Yep.
But then increasingly, guys got pretty efficient at it and didn't worry about the pins anymore, and just used to back them in with as a 3 articulation point road train.
Yep.
So that it was critical. We had to get them the wharf. We had to get them in there quickly.
Yep.
No sense messing around. But originally the pins, and then the guys now they back them in pretty good.
Yep. To Brett, to your credit as well, you could back the 8 uppers in as well.
Yeah.
I haven't mastered it yet. I've done it once with some good coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I know every time we jump in the truck, you always encourage me to take the 8 up, which I love to do. But typically when we're in trucks, it's not time to train.
That's right. It's time to get stuff done.
Move fast.
That's it.
And that's good. So we've spoken about the stevedores and their evolution over time, which has been really great. And as I said before, it's all I've known.
Yes.
We've spoken about the adoption that road transport has had, and the stats are fantastic. Almost 90% of containers handled are hubbed.
Yes.
There's one last piece. Let's talk about that. And from our perspective, it seems like a bit of a deficiency.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly a cost that that is in the equation.
Yep.
So with the stevedores, 24, landside 24.
Yep.
Customers, some 24, but a whole bunch are sort of stuck at 7 to 3.
Yeah, or sometimes on a Friday, 9 till 12.
They want to leave at 12. That's right. Well, that's all very nice, but with shipping lines working 24, stevedores working 24.
Yep.
Landside operators working 24, and then working, as you say, 8 till 12.
Yep.
That does create issues.
Yep.
So that's a lack of efficiency, and that's where some costs come back into the equation. The more you can reduce those things, so you can operate on a 24-hour basis, then the more you can reduce costs and provide better services too.
Yep. And just reduce congestion on the road, because that's one of the things that we identify is that a lot of people want their freight in the morning, which means there's a lot of trucks in the morning.
That's right.
And there's certain geographical locations that we're still hitting hard in the afternoon.
That's right.
To try and get in, ahead of that next day type arrangement.
That's right.
Which just means we're slowing people down to get home.
That's right. We probably shouldn't be on the road at that point.
Yep.
But we are, because we've only got limited delivery windows and got to get containers out and in.
So really, the request we're putting out there to the market is really consider how your logistics operation is running.
Yep.
And whether you can look forward to the future and do some more flexing there to enable 24-hour access for your transport carrier.
That's right.
Because that's going to help the majority. It's going to potentially reduce some congestion on the road.
Yes.
And also potentially be more efficient and free up some costs inside the supply chain as well.
That's right.
Because ultimately, if we can spread our trucks out across a wider range, we can service more people.
Yep.
Our costs go down.
Well, to achieve the task we've got today, we need less trucks.
Yep.
Less trucks means less cost.
Yep. 100%. So, in short, if you're a customer that currently operates 24-hour, we want to talk to you.
We want to talk to you.
Have a great day.
Very good. Thanks for listening to our podcast, Rolling Forward.
We love sharing content for the logistics industry, so please also connect with us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.